Welcome to the world of probiotic foods. This is Cultured Food Life with your host, Donna Schwenk.
Hi everyone, I am Donna, and today's show is about cancer and the power of cultured foods. I'm going to have a guest today that we'll be talking to just here in a little bit, and he's one of the most important people in my business. And if you've engaged in my business in any way, chances are you might have been engaging with him too. Before we get to that interview, I want to tell you a story that's a true story that's very interesting, and it takes place in Russia in 1950. And cancer was dramatically increasing after World War II, and Joseph Stalin was said to have an obsessive fear of getting cancer. So the scientists in the Russian Academy of Science in Moscow began to analyze data and discovered there was a lot of variations of the number of cancer cases in different regions of Russia, and also in districts of the country. They had different districts in there. And they discovered that there were hardly any cases of cancer in two of the districts in the central part. And in those few cases of cancer, they did see only people who had recently moved there who had cancer. And so they sent two teams of 10 scientists to investigate the environmental conditions, lifestyles of the people who lived in the district, in the hope of discovering clues that might lead to an effective treatment for cancer. And they studied the origin of populations, age groups, ethnic distinctions, eating, drinking, sleeping habits, and just anything they could figure out would have an effect on them, and they studied it. But what was really, really interesting was when they discovered very high levels of environmental pollutions like potassium, lead, mercury, asbestos mines in the area, and they were all associated with the processing plant that was creating really toxic living conditions, and much worse in this area than in the older industrial areas. Even trees were dying, as so were the fish in nearby waters. But surprisingly, the morale of the workers in this area was higher than in any other area, and work production was constantly being exceeded in this area, even though the workers drank a lot of alcohol and smoked a lot of cigarettes. The scientists were baffled, and they couldn't explain why this city, which had more pollutants and lifestyle, seemed no different than other cities, but they had almost no cancers. So, one of the team leaders decided they were going to go visit the home of a family as part of the investigation. The wife and husband were at work and the children were at school, but the old grandma was there doing housework. And she offered him a cool beverage, which he found very pleasant and very refreshing. And when he asked what it was, the old lady said it was tea kvass. And the scientist was really surprised by this. The only kvass he knew was a fermented Russian beverage similar to beer made from like rye and barley. But the old lady said that this was not made from rye and barley, but was made from tea that was sweetened and then fermented. And then she took him into her part of the house where there were 10 stoneware jars, and they each had cloth tied over the mouths. She uncovered one of them, and it smelled very strongly of fermentation. And floating on top of the liquid was a large, round, translucent, white, jelly-like thing, flat as a pancake, which we now know is called a SCOBY. The other team working in the other districts also stumbled into this tea kvass, or kombucha, during their investigation as well. And in their research, they found in these homes in this area, they were all drinking it. And they disclosed that in both regions, just about every household produced this kind of tea wine, is what they called it, and consumed it daily. Those who were consuming large quantities of alcohol showed hardly any signs of inebriation or drunkenness, and accidents on the road and the workplace were very rare in these two districts. So the Moscow Central of Bacteriology studied samples of this special drink and concluded that the reason for the absence in cancer in these two districts lay in the drink that they drank every day. So fast forward to present time, and this story, along with the story of the founder of the most popular kombucha, which is GT Synergy Kombucha, was one of the things that convinced me to start drinking and making kombucha myself. If you haven't tried kombucha, you should go grab you a bottle of GT Synergy kombucha because it's awesome and it's everywhere. It's mostly in health food stores, but it's also in regular stores now too. I've even seen it in gas stations. But it's a wonderful drink, and the story behind it is heartwarming, and I love to tell it because it had a big impact on me. And it really it was one of the things that convinced me to try this because I was really taken back by both of these stories. The founder of GT Synergy Kombucha is GT, and he started his company, and he was a young kid. I think he was 19, because he believed that the reason his mom was safe, it was the reason his mom was safe from breast cancer. I'm going to read you her story from their site where you can read it too. This is in her words. This is Lorraine, and she said, I began drinking kombucha in 1993 when a family friend gave me one of his baby cultures to make for ourselves and loved ones. And I was making it in our kitchen. I was initially put off by the unusual taste, but as my energy levels increased and my mood improved, the taste began to grow on me. And I found myself craving this kombucha and drinking it every day. Everyone seemed to notice my healthy glow, so I began bringing kombucha to coworkers and serving it to clients at the Beverly Hills department store where I worked. I loved to serve it out of champagne flute glasses, and it wasn't long until my family took to calling me the kombucha queen. In 1995, I was diagnosed with a rare and aggressive form of breast cancer, known for moving quickly to the lymph nodes and bones, and based on the size of the tumor, which was almost that of a golf ball. Doctors could not give me more than a year to live. I was tested again a week later, and to everyone's surprise, my cancerous cells had not metastasized. My physicians asked me if I was doing anything special. I'm just drinking kombucha tea every day, I replied, since it's really the only thing different that I had been consuming over the last several years. Up to that point, I had been drinking it as a kind of a beauty aid, but now decided that it was time to look into this miracle drink. That's when I discovered numerous books and stories about kombucha and a healing tradition that spans centuries long. It truly is one of nature's very best secrets, and I made a commitment to spread the word of kombucha to all those who are near, dear, far, and wide, in the hope that it could touch other people's lives like it had touched mine. I am proud to say, to this day, I remain cancer-free, and kombucha plays a major role in my life, keeping me healthy, happy, and strong. Now, further investigation, I believe that Lauren, the woman who we're reading her story, she did have chemotherapy as well. And that plays into a very important segment that I want to talk about. And I wrote about this earlier this week on my blog, but I want to emphasize it because it's so important. If you have to have chemotherapy, that's so important to replenish your good bacteria because it can literally save your life. There's so many studies showing that cultured foods can help in the prevention and treatment of cancers. And we're going to get to a story of somebody personal to me that has had that happen. And the multiple strains of good bacteria and yeast and kefir, kombucha, and cultured vegetables, which are what I call the trilogy, they have the ability to detoxify the foods you eat and ingest the carcinogens. And they also help boost the immune system and create an environmental hostile to these poisons that can cause cancer. In 2005, a team of researchers in Poland and in the United States studied two groups of young women, and they were Polish women, one that had immigrated to the United States and one that had not. They found that the rate of breast cancer was 3 times higher for those in the U.S. than there was for those living in Poland. Most studies conclude that the consumption of cultured sauerkraut was a possible factor in the differing rates of cancer. Women in Poland, they eat a lot of cultured cabbage, which I wish we did that here because I think it's awesome. And I do. I eat a lot of it. And but they average about 30 pounds of cultured sauerkraut every year. And the women in the U.S. Usually eat way less than that, which is like 10 pounds per year or much less. But why does that matter? Because sauerkraut contains, and fermented, we're talking about cultured sauerkraut or fermented, contains high levels of glucosinolates, which have been shown to have anti-cancer activities in laboratory research. Other studies have focused on estrogen metabolism and the enzymes in sauerkraut and its juices. And a 2012 study concluded by a biochemist, Hansa Safras, and her colleagues looked at the ability of these enzymes in cabbage and sauerkraut to change the expression of this particular enzyme. And the enzyme's name is P450. And this enzyme metabolizes estrogen because we don't want a lot of circulating estrogen too much in our systems because it can cause cancer. And this enzyme can really downregulate that and help us detoxify from it. And the research supported the idea that the consumption of sauerkraut was a beneficial food in the prevention of breast cancer in women. And it's interesting to me that the women in Poland who had immigrated, they had much less cancer than the ones that had lived here. And they really concluded that it was the cabbage that they ate that was helping them. And it's really powerful because what's interesting to me is that, a lot of people will make cultured sauerkraut and they won't buy organic. But what happens after the 6 to 7 to 8 days of culturing, it removes all kinds of harmful chemicals and pesticides from the kraut itself through the process of fermentation. And so it almost gets all of it out completely in the 7 to 8 days or what it takes to ferment it. But it also does that inside of us. Most of people think that our detoxification comes from our liver, but 50% of the detoxification comes from the bacteria in our gut. So if we don't have the right kinds of bacteria, we don't detoxify well. And what's interesting is people who eat a lot of cabbage that's cultured, they're also helping their bodies get rid of too much estrogen, too many pesticides, heavy plastics and metals in our system that our body's constantly getting rid of. Well, all these foods support that. Kombucha, kefir, and cultured vegetables all support that, and they also take it out of the foods if it's in the foods while it's fermenting, which is a very, very cool thing. Very cool. So there's been some more studies that have linked the consumption of kefir, which is a fermented milk drink, whether it's non-dairy or regular dairy, and they found it has improvements in cancer cases. In 2001, one study showed that kefir reduced the damage to the DNA in colon cancer. And another study showed that the cancer cells in the stomach started to mutate and self-destruct with the addition of kefir to the diet. And if you want to see the research links to that, head on over to my blog at culturedfoodlife.com and look up my latest article that I wrote on cancer, and you'll see those links and the scientific research so you can check it out for yourself. In another research, they gave kefir to mice daily and found that it was very, very effective in regulating the immune system and stopping breast cancer growth. And that study is also on my site. All of these research studies are really interesting, and there's more coming out every day. And I hear it does so many wonderful things, these cultured foods, because they're loaded with probiotics, and they work so much more effectively in the body than supplements because the body knows how to handle them. It's always better when you make your own food. Well, it's the same with making your own probiotics. I can teach you how to make your own probiotics in a jar in 24 hours. And it's simple. It's easy, guys. And I don't do anything hard because when I started this, I was sick and I didn't have any energy. And 15 years ago, if it wasn't easy, I wasn't doing it. And so this is something that came into my life as an answer to prayers and turned my life upside down. It made me feel fantastic. And 15 years later, here I am talking to you on a podcast, which I never in a million years thought I'd do. But when something makes you well, when something helps you heal, you pay attention. And then when you feel better, everything changes in your life. And you want to help other people because you feel better and you care about them. And it's a wonderful thing to feel good. And it's a wonderful thing to understand your body and how it works. and that your body is designed to heal you. Your body is designed to help you, but we're not helping our body. It's doing a really good job, guys. On a regular basis, we're bombarded with chemicals and toxins and pollutants, and our body's just filtering it out as best as it can. And when it gets too much, it starts to break down, and we can get problems like cancer. I'm not saying that's all the reasons that you get cancer, but pollutants and toxins and things like that are not helpful in helping your body to remain healthy and clean. And so when you can find a food that can assist you in doing that, I just think it's the greatest thing ever, because it's just food. It's not medicine. It doesn't have side effects. It's just food. And we're living in a world of microbes anyway, so we might as well use their power to help us stay healthy and be a part of this world in a way that we can assist each other and help each other. Now, here's one of the most important parts of this show today. Along with cancer often comes the use of chemotherapy. And there's been a lot of research done on the connection between the gut and chemotherapy. And I think this is one of the most important things, if you listen to anything on this show, is to listen to this, because this is a key component to surviving the chemotherapy if you have to have it for cancer treatment. So they did a study, and it was a study that researchers gave a group of mice an injection of chemotherapy that would pound for pound kill most human adults. And why did they do this? Well, John Kwai Quang, associate professor at the University of Michigan, said all tumors from different tissues and organs can be killed by high dose of chemotherapy and radiation. But the current challenge for treating the later stage metastasized cancers is that you actually kill the patient before you kill the tumor. So the goal was to test a recently discovered biological mechanism that focuses on preserving the integrity of the gastrointestinal tract, a mechanism that helped the mice live longer and live through the lethal dose of chemotherapy. The mice were injected with a substance called RSPO1, or Respondo-1, which activated stem cell production within the gut. These stem cells then rebuild damaged tissues faster than chemotherapy can destroy it. Of the mice that were given the Respondo-1, 50 to 75% survived the potentially fatal chemo dose. But all of the mice in the control group died. And here's the exciting part. I'm really excited about this. Your body already has a way to make this Respondo-1 all by itself on its own. Inside the human gut is a layer of cells that is regenerated every 4 to 5 days. But only if you have the right gut flora. If your gut flora is healthy and includes a group of healthy strains of bacteria, your body will regenerate itself, because your body's designed to do this. And if they do not, then it slows or halts the regeneration of your intestinal cells, or it stops it, grinds it to a halt. That's if you have the right microbes in your gut, healthy ones. The microbes in your gut can determine how and if your body survives chemotherapy, making it really, really crucial for those with cancer and those going through chemo to add cultured foods and prebiotics to their diet. It just can make all the difference in the world, because the body will regenerate the lining of the gut and allow you to maintain a healthy life, because chemo can destroy it quite effectively. Cancer and chemotherapy are really complex, and they really do affect people in different ways. And I'm certainly, guys, I'm not saying that cultured foods are cure-all or anything like that, but I'm really encouraging you to take a look at what you're eating and take a look at what you're doing with your life, that it can change everything. Your body has the ability to do things. I mean, it's constantly making new organs in your body all the time. Your liver regenerates. I mean, so many of our organs and our skin it's constantly being regenerated all the time. So it just needs some help from you. You're the captain. You decide what you're going to put in your mouth, and every single thing that you eat determines what your body is made out of. And we get addicted to foods because we eat them all the time, and we get certain microbes in our gut that make us crave those foods, and then we think we don't want those other foods, they're not healthy. But when you change what you eat, you wind up enjoying those foods that love you back. I'm serious, because guys, I was one of those people that ate food that wasn't good for me, and I didn't know why. I didn't know why I couldn't stop. And when I changed, I just kind of used it didn't even take very long. I started craving different types of food because I made different microbes in my gut. And I have some people around me that are really scared right now, that have gotten a serious diagnosis that I don't know very well, some new people in my life. And I'm just sending this out to you. The body is miraculous. And you've abused it for a while. And that's okay, because you were doing the best you can. But I just hope I can be a bridge of hope for you. Now, our bodies are so cool. And my body has changed so much in these last 15 years. And I'm so grateful that my body did not give up on me, because I pretty much abused it pretty badly. I never had cancer, but I had some other stuff going on that it was pretty bad. And my body came back from that. And I did not know my body could feel this good. And I am thankful and grateful that food could change me so dramatically. Not just any food, but these cultured foods came to me in a time when I needed them so badly. And so if you're out there and you're struggling, I hope that I can hold you up just a little bit, maybe be a light. There's always hope, guys. There's always a way. And now I want to introduce you to my friend Chris. He's a 7-year cancer survivor. And he's just a simple guy. And he changed his life. And now he's a big part of my business. And I love him a lot. So let's talk to Chris. How are you, Chris?
Hi, Donna. I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it is. It's a privilege to work with Chris, and I love working with you, Chris, a lot.
Oh,
and,
feelings mutual.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun together, and I didn't know you a whole lot before we started working together, although you were friends with my older children. But
Right.
Your story, you were the second or third person that ever posted on my Facebook page. I had started my Facebook page 10 years ago, or 2010. Mm-hmm. And you were like one of the first people that posted on my page, and you said, how do I make or get some of this kombucha tea? And I didn't know at the time that you had cancer, but why don't you explain a little bit about how you found out you had cancer and what led you to, cultured foods?
All right. Well, like you said, it was early 2010. I think it was probably January, February. I was just living my life, going to work, and la-di-da. And I started losing some weight, trying to get in better shape, and my face was starting to thin out a little bit, which was good. But then over the couple months, I noticed that I had this lump on the side of my face above my right jaw that was staying big, and the rest of my face was getting small. And it was kind of squishy. I could move it around a little bit, and eventually I said to my wife, I should probably go get this thing checked out. I'd always been, relatively healthy, so I didn't really have a regular doctor that I went to. So I had to go out and find a general doctor who referred me to a specialist. So I went to the doctor. They did a needle biopsy on it, took out a few cells, told me that there were some cells that they found that were indicative of Hodgkin's lymphoma. So they wanted to do the full biopsy to remove the tumor. So I got that scheduled, had that procedure done. And then when I got the pathology report back, they told me, Chris, you've got cancer, Hodgkin's lymphoma. It was stage 3. Everything was all very new to me. So yeah, I'm freaking out a little bit. But they say, it's usually got a really good, recovery rate for people that get treatment. And so I just started researching, because I've always been a little bit skeptical, not wanting to jump right in and do what exactly what Western medicine tells you to do. So I started looking into alternative methods, because I really did not want to go through chemotherapy. And it was, like you said, it was about that same time that you started your Facebook page, and I had been on there and saw that you had started it. So I was hearing some things about, and I didn't even know what kombucha was. I just heard that it was probiotic tea that can help with this stuff. I didn't know anything about any of the other foods too. So yeah, I sent you a message and asked how do I make this probiotic tea?
Hmm.
And I guess the rest is history.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Did you know any had you heard any of the research about it helping probiotics helping with
Not
cancer?
not not really. I was trying to just get as healthy as I possibly could. But I hadn't really heard much about cultured foods at that time. So your Facebook page, was pretty much one of the first things I had ever read about that.
Now you did opt to do the chemo, right? You went,
I did. Well, first I tried just first I opted to try not to do the chemo. I went for about 4 months. Lived a very strict diet. I stopped eating, pretty much all sugar altogether. It was mostly, fruits and veggies. I was exercising a lot. Turned out to be a fantastic way to lose weight and everything.
you
But 4 months later, I
even
could still
fasted,
feel.
right? Didn't you say you fasted
Yeah,
too?
yeah. I had been reading up on fasting. I actually went through a 21-day water fast. Just had water. I just kind of wanted to see what it would be like. But I could feel the, and for those of you who don't know what Hodgkin's disease is, it's a cancer of the lymph system. And so I could feel the lymph nodes in my neck were swollen. They felt like little peas or marbles that were just hard, all up on the right side of my neck. And as even though I went through this whole regimen, I still could feel them in there. It wasn't like that they had gone away. And so 4 months later, I had another scan done, and they said, well, even though you've got yourself in a better physical shape, the cancer is still there. And so with situations, with my work, I needed to get back to work. I decided to go ahead and go through the chemotherapy, which is what they recommended. Um, but I continued to do cultured foods through all of that too, because I knew how well it made me feel and how important it was to keep doing that to keep the good bacteria in my system.
Hmm. And so you had the chemotherapy,
Yeah.
and I know you and your wife pretty well, and you started integrating all of these foods into your diet too, right?
Well, yeah, it was crazy because we started out trying to help. Me and my wife, was very supportive, so she was learning about all these foods too. But it also, as we found out, started helping her because she had a lot of issues with her stomach. We think she probably had ulcers in her stomach, and it was very hard for her to digest anything. And before we started that, she was trying different things. There was like aloe vera shakes that she would try to drink, try to coat the inside of her stomach, and so we started doing, kefir, kombucha, and cultured veggies on a regular basis, and we found out that her digestive issues were completely gone after we'd been doing that for several months. So it was really great. I mean, it helped me, but it also helped her too. And at that time, we also had two kids that we started giving cultured foods. And before that, we do traditional, just eat whatever, and they would get sick like other kids, snot nose and colds and stuff like that. But once we started feeding them the cultured foods, we found out that they weren't getting sick near as often. And then, fast forward a few years later, we had two more kids, and they, were the lucky ones because they started out eating the cultured foods from the very beginning. Like even when my wife was pregnant and nursing, they were still getting the good probiotics. And yeah, my kids still get sick every once in a while, but it isn't near as often as a lot of other people I know. They don't have the regular ear infections or runny noses, things like that. So I feel very blessed that we found these foods, especially early on with my later two kids, and they love them. They love eating the foods, and they can't imagine not eating them.
Hmm. Well, it's a neat thing that it impacted your whole family, not just you. But
Yeah, absolutely.
what's great about it is that sometimes we need Western medicine, because I am not against doctors. I'm not.
Right, right.
I think sometimes the doctors don't get very much nutrition in school. They only get, my brother-in-law's a physician,
Hmm.
and he only gets 2 weeks of nutrition in medical school. And so they're not really programmed to learn about food in the body and how it can heal and help. And we're moving in that direction now.
Yes.
Mostly, it was prescriptions and drugs like that. So, it's a wonderful thing when you incorporate all of this, just not just, the chemotherapy was probably something that helped you greatly and saved your life.
Oh,
And
absolutely, absolutely.
and as I talked about in the earlier part of my broadcast, it destroys a lot of things in the body, so it can kill the cancer too. And so the body's got to rebuild itself, but without the help of microbes, the body can't regenerate the gut lining. So is a really important component to people who have to undergo chemotherapy. To and even if you can't get probiotic foods, take some probiotic supplements. They don't work as well, but that's something. It's better than nothing. I mean, they're still good. There's still some good in them. You just have to take a lot more of them. So,
Right.
but probiotic foods work so well because like one spoonful of cultured vegetables is as much as in an entire supplement bottle because of the way that it works in the body. And it's interesting to me because 7 years later, you still eat the cultured foods.
I still eat them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. This is we're in November right now, and so yeah, it's been pretty much about 7 years exactly, cancer free, and still going good.
Yeah.
We're still making the cultured foods. My whole family is still eating them, and we very rarely for one of us to get sick. And if we do get sick, it's we have the cultured veggies in the fridge, or something that we take, and it's usually gone within a day for the most part. So.
And Chris, we work together every day. I mean, running, and you're there getting emails and watching these emails come in, and we see the help that these foods bring to people. I mean, sometimes I think if we told people about some of the emails we got, they wouldn't believe us because it's almost sounds, and you can attest to this because you see the emails, witness. It's miraculous that what these foods do. It blows my mind.
It really is. I'm surprised. I mean, I've been doing this for 7 years. I know you've been doing it longer. We still get stories that blow us away. We still hear new things that these foods help out with every day, and it just it encourages people. I really wish I could say that eating these foods when I was going through chemo helped to alleviate a lot of the symptoms of the chemotherapy. It was still a pretty awful time. I mean, chemotherapy is, it's not a fun process to go through. So even though I was eating the foods, I still felt horrible while doing the chemotherapy. I still couldn't imagine not being able to replenish that good gut flora after each thing. So I'm sure that if I hadn't eaten these foods, I would have ended up a lot worse after it was all over.
Yeah, because people don't really understand what's going on inside of their bodies, how these cells that are so miraculous, there's trillions of them, are regenerating all the tissues in our body. And we don't know what, they need the help of bacteria to do that and to really transform our bodies. And people just take it for granted because we don't understand it. We don't understand what's happening. And there have been many a days when you or I have been discouraged about something going on in the business or something. And without a doubt, Chris, we'll get an email from somebody that will send us a story that will bring us both to tears. And
oh yeah, happens every time.
Yeah, and we're so thankful that we're not just working this business just to heat our homes and pay our bills, which is very nice, by the way, but it's for the help that it brings people. It's an amazing way to live your life doing this. And every day we're talking to people and getting gazillions of emails and doing our best to help everybody that we can. But when we see the benefits that, even the struggles that you've had and the struggles that I've had in our health, when it gets all turned around and we feel healthy and we're happy and we can help others, and then we see it help them, it just makes life really sweet. It makes it a really sweet journey. And Chris, I really enjoy doing this with you. And
I really appreciate that, Donna. And those that are listening, if cultured foods have helped you, please share your story with us, because it really does
help
charge us up and help us. It reminds us why we do what we do every day. And we love hearing the stories. If you don't have a success story right now, go ahead and send us an email, because I know we've talked to people in the past where we've heard I remember one girl in particular, she was just going through the depths of despair. She was, not feeling good at all. Every day was just horrible. And then a few months later, she called in and everything had turned around for her. And she was, the foods had really helped her. And it was so encouraging to hear that. It was just a real blessing.
We have a special page, and actually Chris made me this page on my website called Lives Touched, because we get so many emails and people will send in their stories and they'll put their pictures on there and they tell their stories, and they're moving and they mean the world to us. So if you want to take a look at some more stories, head on over to our Lives Touch page at culturedfoodlife.com. And I think where is it at? Is it in the menu bar, Chris, at the top?
Yeah, just at the top, you'll see a button that says Lives Touch. Just click on that and you'll be able to read all the stories.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming on, Chris, and thank you for sharing your story. And I hope all of you out there that maybe you're going through cancer or struggling, that this will bring you some hope and some help. And just remember that your body was designed to heal you guys, and there's always hope. Thanks for listening. Have a great one.